Consider this. Every day, we encounter people who drain our energy, provoke our frustrations, and test our patience. Toxic behavior is everywhere, whether it's passive-aggressive comments from a coworker, manipulative tactics from a family member, or even the negativity we scroll through online. It's exhausting, isn't it? But what if I told you there's a philosophy that has stood the test of time, offering practical tools to not only withstand these challenges, but to rise above them with grace and strength? That philosophy is Stoicism, and its wisdom is more relevant today than ever before. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most famous Stoic thinkers, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. These words, written nearly 2,000 years ago, hold a profound truth. While we can't control the actions of others, we can always control how we respond. This isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is fine. It's about cultivating inner resilience, maintaining clarity in the face of chaos, and refusing to let toxic behavior dictate our lives. In this video, we'll explore 24 rare Stoic insights that can disarm toxic behavior instantly. These principles, like detachment from external judgments, the power of presence, and the practice of emotional resilience, aren't just philosophical ideas. They're actionable strategies you can use in your daily life, whether you're dealing with a difficult person or navigating your own reactions to stress and negativity. Stoicism isn't about retreating from the world. It's about engaging with it more skillfully, more calmly, and with a greater sense of purpose. By the end of this video, you'll walk away with tools that can transform how you handle conflict, protect your peace, and reclaim your power in any situation. So, if you're ready to step into a calmer, more empowered version of yourself, let's dive in. What if you could remain unshaken by toxic behavior, no matter how intense or persistent it becomes? This is the essence of Stoic detachment, a mindset that allows you to separate your emotions from the actions of others. It's not about indifference or ignoring what's happening around you. Instead, it's about recognizing that while you can't control how people act, you always have control over how you respond. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, put it simply, "Some things are in our control and others are not." By focusing only on what's within your power, your thoughts, your choices, your reactions, you can avoid being swept away by negativity. Take, for example, a scenario many of us face: workplace gossip. Imagine a coworker spreading rumors about you, trying to undermine your reputation. It's easy to feel hurt, angry, or even tempted to retaliate. But Stoicism invites you to pause and ask, is this within my control? The gossip itself isn't, but your response is. You can choose not to internalize their words, not to let their behavior dictate your emotional state. Instead, you can focus on your own integrity and continue doing your best work. This is Stoic detachment in action, remaining calm, centered, and unshaken, no matter what others do. Detachment isn't just about handling external challenges, it's also about protecting your inner peace. When you stop tying your happiness to the behavior of others, you free yourself from unnecessary stress and turmoil. It's like building an invisible shield around your mind, one that lets negativity bounce off without affecting you. So, how can you practice detachment in your daily interactions? Start by observing your reactions to others' behavior. Notice when you feel triggered, and remind yourself that their actions are beyond your control. Focus on what you can do, how you can respond with calmness and clarity. Over time, this practice can transform not only how you handle toxic behavior, but how you experience life itself. Picture this: Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, was once publicly mocked by an opponent who hurled insults at him in front of a crowd. Instead of lashing out or defending himself, Seneca simply stood there unbothered. When asked why he didn't react, he replied, "Why should I be angry? It's like being upset at a barking dog. It's in their nature." This story illustrates the power of non-reaction, a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. When faced with hostility, our instinct is often to fight back, to prove ourselves, or to vent our frustration. But Stoicism teaches us that reacting emotionally only adds fuel to the fire. It gives the other person exactly what they want, a reaction. Instead, by choosing not to engage, you strip their behavior of its power. Seneca once wrote, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." Think about that for a moment. When someone says or does something hurtful, the initial sting is often minor compared to the emotional turmoil we create by dwelling on it or reacting impulsively. The true damage comes from within, from our own anger, resentment, or frustration. Non-reaction isn't about suppressing your emotions. It's about recognizing that your emotions are your responsibility. You can feel hurt or annoyed, but you don't have to let those feelings dictate your actions. Consider a modern example: online negativity. How often have you found yourself scrolling through comments or messages, only to stumble upon a harsh critique or a mean-spirited remark? It's tempting to fire back, to defend yourself, or to try to set the record straight. But what if instead you chose not to react? What if you took a moment to pause, breathe, and remind yourself that their words are a reflection of them, not you? This simple act of non-reaction can save you time, energy, and emotional distress. So, what triggers your emotional reactions? Is it criticism, disrespect, or feeling misunderstood? Whatever it is, the next time you feel that familiar surge of anger or frustration, pause. Ask yourself, will reacting help the situation, or will it only make things worse? Stoicism invites us to take control of our inner world, even when the outer world feels chaotic. By mastering the art of non-reaction, you reclaim your power and protect your peace. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, laid down a principle that remains profoundly relevant today. Some things are within our control, and some are not. This simple yet powerful idea is a cornerstone of Stoic wisdom. Think about it. What do you truly control? Your thoughts, your actions, your choices, your reactions. Everything else, the opinions of others, their behavior, even the outcomes of your efforts, falls outside your control. When you focus your energy on what you can influence, you reclaim a sense of agency and peace, even in the face of toxic behavior. Take, for example, a coworker who constantly spreads negativity. Their attitude and words are not within your control, but how you respond is entirely up to you. You can choose to engage, argue, or let their negativity affect your mood, or you can focus on your own mindset and actions. By shifting your attention inward, you reduce their ability to disrupt your peace. As Epictetus taught, we suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them. In other words, it's not the toxic person who causes your distress, it's your reaction to them. Consider a modern parallel: social media. It's easy to get caught up in the drama, the heated debates, or the negative comments. But do you control what others post? No, what you control is how you engage, or whether you engage at all. You can choose to scroll past, to mute, or to disconnect entirely and focus on what truly matters to you. This isn't about ignoring the world. It's about prioritizing your energy and attention on what you can actually change. So ask yourself, are you spending energy on things beyond your control? Are you trying to change someone else's behavior, or are you focusing on your own growth and well-being? When you redirect your attention to what's within your power, you not only disarm the toxic behavior of others, but also cultivate a sense of inner resilience. You become less reactive and more intentional, less scattered and more centered. This shift isn't just a Stoic principle, it's a practical tool for navigating life's challenges with grace and strength. Imagine a ship caught in a storm. The sailor can't control the wind or the waves, but they can adjust the sails and steer the course. In the same way, when you focus on what you control, you navigate the storms of life with greater ease and confidence. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom, not to change the world around you, but to master your inner world and respond to life on your own terms. Silence can be a Stoic's greatest weapon. In a world where sharp words and heated reactions often dominate, silence stands as a profound act of strength. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." What he's saying is this: when someone tries to provoke you, responding with silence doesn't mean you're weak or defeated. It means you're choosing not to play their game. You're refusing to give their negativity power over you. Silence, in this context, is a form of restraint, a deliberate choice to rise above the chaos. Think about how often arguments escalate simply because both sides keep talking. Someone says something hurtful, and instead of walking away, we feel compelled to respond. But what if you didn't? What if, instead of engaging, you simply stayed quiet? Silence has a way of disarming provocation. It stops the cycle of back and forth, leaving the other person with no one to argue with. It's like stepping out of a storm and letting it rage on without you. Consider a scenario where someone is verbally attacking you, maybe a colleague, a family member, or even a stranger online. They're angry, they're lashing out, and every word they say is designed to push your buttons. Now imagine responding not with anger or defensiveness, but with calm, deliberate silence. You're not ignoring them, you're acknowledging their behavior by refusing to participate in it. This isn't about suppressing your feelings, it's about choosing not to let their negativity dictate your actions. So, when might silence serve you better than words? Perhaps when emotions are running high, and anything you say will only add fuel to the fire. Or maybe when someone is trying to bait you into an argument, and you recognize that engaging would only waste your energy. Silence isn't about avoiding conflict, it's about choosing your battles wisely. It's about preserving your peace and demonstrating that you're in control of your own reactions. In a world that often values loudness over thoughtfulness, silence can be a radical act. It's a way of saying, "I won't let your words define me." It's a reminder that you don't have to respond to every provocation, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing at all. When you master the art of silence, you reclaim your power and create space for clarity, calm, and growth. That's the Stoic way, not to silence others, but to choose silence for yourself as a tool for strength and resilience. Why do people act toxically, and how can understanding their motives help you respond better? This is where Stoic empathy comes into play. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil." What he's saying is that toxic behavior often stems from ignorance, fear, or inner turmoil. It's not about you, it's about them. When you shift your perspective to see their actions as a reflection of their struggles, it becomes easier to respond with calm rather than anger. Take the example of a rude colleague. Maybe they snap at you during a meeting or criticize your work in front of others. Your first instinct might be to react defensively, to lash out or withdraw. But what if instead you pause to consider why they're behaving this way? Perhaps they're overwhelmed with their own workload, or maybe they're dealing with personal issues that have nothing to do with you. When you approach their behavior with curiosity rather than judgment, you create space for empathy. This doesn't mean excusing their actions, but understanding them can help you respond in a way that doesn't escalate the situation. Empathy doesn't require you to agree with or tolerate toxicity. It's about recognizing that people often act out because they're hurting, and their behavior is a cry for help, even if they don't realize it. By choosing to see beyond their words or actions, you take away their power to upset you. Instead of reacting with frustration, you can respond with clarity and compassion. This doesn't mean you have to fix their problems or even engage with them directly. Sometimes the most powerful response is simply understanding. So, how can empathy change your approach to toxic behavior? It shifts the focus from how they're acting to how you're responding. Instead of letting their negativity dictate your emotions, you take control of your own thoughts and reactions. You refuse to be drawn into their drama, choosing instead to rise above it. When you practice empathy, you're not just disarming their toxicity, you're reclaiming your peace and showing that your inner strength is greater than their negativity. That's the Stoic way, to respond not with anger but with understanding, and in doing so, to find a deeper sense of calm and resilience. Seneca once wrote, "It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." This simple yet profound idea can transform how you handle toxic behavior. When faced with conflict or negativity, ask yourself, how much will this matter in a week, a month, or even a year? The long-term perspective reminds us that most of what upsets us today will fade with time. This doesn't mean ignoring the issue, but it does mean putting it in its proper place. By zooming out, you can see the bigger picture and focus on what truly matters. Take a common scenario like a family dispute. Maybe there's tension during a holiday gathering, or a relative makes a hurtful comment. In the moment, it feels like a huge deal, and it's easy to get caught up in the emotions. But what if you stepped back and thought about how this situation will look in the future? Will that comment still sting in 6 months? Will the argument still seem important in a year? Chances are it won't. By adopting this long-term view, you can choose to let go of the small stuff and focus on preserving the relationships that matter most. This perspective also helps you respond to toxic behavior with clarity rather than frustration. When someone tries to provoke you, ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Will this person's negativity still affect me in the long run? Often, the answer is no. By refusing to engage in petty conflicts, you take away their power to upset you. You're not ignoring the behavior, you're choosing not to let it control you. This approach doesn't just protect your peace, it also sends a powerful message that their toxicity won't dictate your actions. So, how can you practice this long-term perspective in everyday life? Start by asking yourself 2 simple questions. Does this truly matter? And how will I feel about this later? These questions act as a filter, helping you separate what's worth your attention from what's just noise. Over time, this mindset becomes a habit, allowing you to rise above negativity and focus on what truly enriches your life. Seneca's wisdom reminds us that life is too short to waste on things that won't matter in the long run. By embracing this perspective, you can navigate toxic behavior with grace and reclaim your time and energy for what truly counts. Epictetus once said, "We should always be asking ourselves, is this something that is or is not in my control?" This question is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, and it's especially powerful when it comes to handling toxic behavior. When you're fully present in the moment, you're better able to discern what you can change and what you simply need to accept. It's easy to get swept up in the emotions of a situation, but staying grounded allows you to respond with clarity rather than react with impulsiveness. Marcus Aurelius echoed this idea when he wrote, "The present moment is all you have, the future is uncertain, and the past is gone." By focusing on the now, you can avoid being dragged into unnecessary drama or negativity. Consider a stressful scenario like a heated argument at work. Your colleague might be raising their voice, making unfair accusations, or trying to provoke a reaction. In that moment, it's natural to feel defensive or angry, but what if you paused, took a deep breath, and asked yourself, what can I control here? You can't control their behavior, but you can control how you respond. By staying present, you can choose to respond calmly, assertively, and without letting their negativity dictate your actions. This isn't about being passive, it's about being intentional. Cultivating presence isn't just about handling conflicts. It's about creating a mindset that shields you from toxicity in the first place. When you're fully engaged in the present, you're less likely to dwell on past grievances or worry about future slights. You're also more attuned to the beauty and possibility of the moment, which makes it harder for negativity to take hold. This doesn't mean ignoring problems. It means addressing them from a place of calm and clarity rather than chaos. So how can you practice presence in your daily life? Start with small, intentional actions. When you're in a conversation, really listen instead of planning your next response. When you're walking, notice the sights and sounds around you instead of getting lost in your thoughts. These moments of mindfulness train your brain to stay grounded, even in challenging situations. Over time, presence becomes a habit, allowing you to navigate life's ups and downs with grace and resilience. By embracing the power of the present, you can disarm toxic behavior and reclaim your peace of mind. How does humility disarm toxicity? At its core, Stoic humility is about recognizing that we're all human, flawed, and constantly learning. It's the practice of stepping back from the urge to judge, criticize, or dominate others. Epictetus put it this way: if anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said, but answer, "He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone." This mindset shifts the focus from defending yourself to acknowledging your imperfections, which takes the power away from toxic behavior. When you approach a situation with humility, you're less likely to escalate conflict or take things personally. Take the example of receiving criticism, especially when it feels unfair or harsh. The instinctive response might be to argue, deflect, or even lash out. But what if instead you paused and considered that the critic might have a point, even if it's poorly expressed? Humility allows you to sift through the noise and find the truth, even in uncomfortable feedback. It's not about agreeing with everything said, but about staying open to growth. This approach often disarms the critic, as they see you're not defensive or volatile, but willing to engage constructively. Beyond handling criticism, humility transforms your interactions with others. It creates an atmosphere of mutual respect and understanding. When you're humble, you're less likely to assert dominance or demand recognition, which can trigger defensive or toxic responses from others. Instead, you invite collaboration and goodwill. Think about a time when someone admitted they were wrong or apologized sincerely. It's disarming, isn't it? That's the power of humility in action. So, how can you cultivate this kind of humility in your daily life? Start by practicing self-awareness. Reflect on your own mistakes and shortcomings without judgment. When you're tempted to criticize someone else, pause and consider whether you've ever been guilty of the same thing. This doesn't mean being overly harsh on yourself. It's about fostering a balanced perspective. You can also seek out feedback from trusted sources and listen without defensiveness. Over time, these small steps build a habit of humility, that not only disarms toxicity, but also strengthens your relationships and inner peace. By embracing humility, you create a space where understanding and growth can flourish, even in the face of negativity. The practice of gratitude is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, and it holds incredible power when it comes to disarming toxic behavior. Stoics teach us that gratitude isn't just a fleeting feeling, it's a tool for resilience, a way to reframe our perspective and reduce the impact of negativity in our lives. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, once said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future, not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient." This mindset shifts our focus from what's lacking or troubling to what's abundant and meaningful. When you consciously choose to focus on gratitude, you create a mental shield against toxicity. For example, imagine you're in a situation where someone is being dismissive or overly critical. Instead of dwelling on their negativity, you might pause and think about what you're grateful for in that moment. Maybe it's the support of a friend, the lessons you've learned from past challenges, or even the simple fact that you have the strength to respond calmly. This shift in focus doesn't erase the difficulty, but it lessens its grip on you. Gratitude allows you to see the bigger picture, reminding you that toxicity is often a reflection of someone else's struggles, not your worth. A modern example of this might be finding gratitude in a difficult work environment. Perhaps you're dealing with a demanding boss or a competitive colleague. Instead of letting their behavior consume you, you could focus on what the situation is teaching you: patience, resilience, or even the value of setting boundaries. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring problems. It means finding the silver linings that help you navigate them with grace. So, how can you cultivate this Stoic practice of gratitude in your daily life? Start small. Each day, take a moment to reflect on 3 things you're grateful for, no matter how ordinary they seem. It could be the warmth of the sun, a kind word from a stranger, or the opportunity to learn something new. Over time, this habit trains your mind to seek out the positive, even in challenging circumstances. It's a simple yet profound way to build resilience and maintain your inner peace. What are you grateful for, even in the face of toxicity? Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. This simple yet profound teaching lies at the heart of the Stoic discipline of acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation or giving up. It means recognizing what is beyond our control and choosing not to waste energy fighting it. When we resist what we can't change, we invite frustration, anger, and unnecessary stress into our lives. But when we practice acceptance, we free ourselves from the emotional turmoil that often accompanies toxic situations. Imagine this scenario: you're working on an important project, and at the last minute, a key team member drops out. Your initial reaction might be frustration or even anger. Why did this have to happen now? But here's where Stoic acceptance comes into play. Instead of dwelling on the setback, you acknowledge it as something outside your control and shift your focus to what you can do next. Maybe it's reorganizing the team, adjusting the timeline, or even seeking new opportunities this change might bring. By accepting the situation, you prevent it from escalating into a source of toxic stress. Acceptance is also a powerful tool in dealing with difficult people. Let's say you have a colleague who is often dismissive or uncooperative. Trying to change their behavior is unlikely to succeed, but accepting that this is how they are allows you to focus on your own response. You might choose to limit your interactions with them, set clear boundaries, or simply not take their behavior personally. This shift in mindset doesn't solve the problem entirely, but it reduces its emotional impact on you. So, what can you accept today to reduce your stress? Is it a situation at work, a relationship dynamic, or even an unexpected change in your plans? By embracing the Stoic practice of acceptance, you reclaim your peace of mind and create space for more constructive action. Remember, it's not about ignoring the challenges life throws at you, it's about facing them with clarity and calm, knowing that your power lies in how you respond. How can Stoic resilience help you endure toxic behavior? The answer lies in the Stoic belief that challenges are not obstacles but opportunities for growth. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This central idea reminds us that our response to adversity defines our character and shapes our future. Resilience, in the Stoic sense, is about maintaining inner strength and composure, even when faced with difficult or toxic behavior. Consider a situation where you're on the receiving end of harsh criticism. It's easy to feel hurt, defensive, or even defeated, but Stoicism teaches us to step back and ask, is this criticism true? If it is, it's an opportunity to learn and improve. If it's not, it's merely noise, something you can acknowledge without letting it shake your confidence. By focusing on your response rather than the criticism itself, you transform a potentially toxic encounter into a moment of personal growth. Building resilience in daily life starts with small, intentional practices. One effective method is to regularly reflect on your values and remind yourself of what truly matters. When you're grounded in your principles, external negativity has less power over you. Another practice is to embrace discomfort deliberately. This could mean taking on challenges that push your limits or simply practicing patience in frustrating situations. Over time, these experiences strengthen your ability to remain calm and focused, even in the face of adversity. Resilience also involves cultivating a mindset of gratitude. Instead of dwelling on what's going wrong, take a moment to appreciate what's going right. This shift in perspective can help you maintain a sense of balance and perspective, even when dealing with difficult people or situations. Remember, resilience isn't about being unaffected by life's challenges, it's about navigating them with grace and determination. So, how can you begin to build resilience today? Start by identifying one area where you feel challenged or overwhelmed. How can you approach it with a Stoic mindset? By viewing each difficulty as a chance to grow, you'll not only endure toxic behavior but emerge stronger, wiser, and more capable. Resilience, after all, isn't just about surviving. It's about thriving in the face of life's inevitable tests. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, faced immense challenges during his reign: wars, political intrigue, and personal loss. Yet he remained steadfast, writing in his meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This profound insight reveals the Stoic emphasis on perspective. By shifting how we view a situation, we can reduce its emotional grip and reclaim control over our inner peace. Consider Aurelius' approach to adversity. Instead of seeing external events as inherently negative, he chose to view them as opportunities to practice virtue and resilience. This reframing allowed him to navigate chaos with clarity and purpose. For instance, when faced with betrayal, he focused on his ability to respond with integrity rather than dwelling on the betrayal itself. This practice of perspective transformed challenges into catalysts for growth. In modern life, this principle remains just as powerful. Imagine you're in a heated conversation with a colleague who constantly undermines your ideas. It's easy to feel frustrated or even angry, but what if you shifted your perspective? Instead of seeing their behavior as a personal attack, view it as a reflection of their own insecurities or struggles. This doesn't excuse their actions, but it allows you to approach the situation with empathy and composure. By choosing this mindset, you disarm the toxicity and create space for constructive dialogue. Another example might be dealing with a setback at work, like missing a promotion. Rather than viewing it as a failure, reframe it as a chance to reassess your goals and develop new skills. This shift in perspective turns disappointment into motivation, empowering you to move forward with purpose. The Stoic practice of perspective isn't about ignoring reality or pretending everything is fine. It's about recognizing that our interpretation of events shapes our experience. By consciously choosing how we view situations, we can reduce their negative impact and maintain our inner balance. So, how can you apply this today? Start by identifying a situation that's causing you stress or frustration. Ask yourself, how else can I view this? What's within my control? And how can I use this to grow? By adopting a Stoic perspective, you'll not only disarm toxicity, but also cultivate a sense of calm and clarity in the face of life's challenges. How does self-reflection help us respond better to toxic behavior? The Stoics believed that self-awareness was the cornerstone of emotional resilience. Seneca, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "Assess yourself daily, for you can hardly be trusted with yourself." This daily practice of introspection allows us to pause, examine our thoughts, and understand why we react the way we do, especially in challenging situations. When faced with toxic behavior, it's natural to react impulsively. Anger, frustration, or defensiveness can take over, clouding our judgment, but self-reflection acts as a grounding force. By taking time to process our emotions, we can respond from a place of clarity rather than raw reaction. For example, imagine someone constantly criticizes your work. Instead of immediately lashing out or internalizing the criticism, you might take a moment to journal about it. Write down what happened, how it made you feel, and why it triggered you. This simple act of reflection helps you separate the emotion from the event, giving you space to choose a more measured response. Journaling, in particular, is a powerful tool for self-reflection. It's not about dwelling on negative thoughts, but about understanding them. When you put your feelings into words, you gain insight into your emotional triggers and patterns. Over time, this practice helps you identify recurring themes. Maybe you're particularly sensitive to criticism because of past experiences, or perhaps you struggle with self-doubt. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward changing them. Self-reflection also teaches us to take responsibility for our reactions. It's easy to blame others for their toxic behavior, but we can't control them. What we can control is how we respond. By reflecting on our own role in the situation, we can choose to act with integrity rather than reacting out of emotion. This doesn't mean excusing or accepting toxic behavior, but rather ensuring that our own actions align with our values. So, what can self-reflection teach you about your reactions? It shows you where you're strong and where you need to grow. It helps you recognize the difference between what's within your control and what's not. And most importantly, it empowers you to respond to toxicity with wisdom and grace, rather than letting it dictate your emotions. By making self-reflection a daily habit, you'll not only disarm toxic behavior, but also cultivate a deeper understanding of yourself. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." At the heart of this teaching lies the virtue of patience, an often underestimated form of strength. Patience isn't just waiting, it's a deliberate choice to remain calm and composed, especially when faced with challenging or toxic behavior. It's about understanding that reacting impulsively only fuels the fire, while patience has the power to de-escalate and disarm. Consider a situation where someone is constantly late or unresponsive, leaving you frustrated and disrespected. It's easy to let anger take over, to lash out or demand explanations. But what if instead you paused and chose patience? By maintaining your composure, you not only avoid adding to the tension but also create space for the other person to reflect on their actions. Patience shifts the dynamic from confrontation to understanding, often disarming the negativity before it escalates further. Patience also allows us to see the bigger picture. When we're patient, we give ourselves time to consider the other person's perspective. Maybe they're dealing with stress or personal challenges that we're unaware of. Maybe their behavior isn't about us at all. By choosing patience, we open the door to empathy, which can transform how we respond to negativity. It's not about excusing toxic behavior, but about responding in a way that aligns with our values and promotes peace. How can patience transform your response to negativity? It teaches us to respond rather than react, to act with intention rather than impulse. It's a reminder that our strength lies not in how quickly we can defend ourselves, but in how calmly we can navigate the storm. Patience is a shield that protects our inner peace, even in the face of toxicity. By practicing it, we not only disarm others' negative behavior, but also cultivate a deeper sense of resilience within ourselves. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice." This profound insight reveals forgiveness not as a gift to others, but as a gift to ourselves. Holding onto resentment is like carrying a heavy stone in your pocket. It weighs you down, drains your energy, and keeps you tethered to the past. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is the act of setting that stone down, freeing yourself from the burden of bitterness. It's not about excusing harmful behavior, but about reclaiming your peace of mind. Seneca echoed this sentiment when he said, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." When we refuse to forgive, we allow the actions of others to continue hurting us long after the event has passed. We replay the hurt in our minds, stoking the flames of anger and resentment. But forgiveness breaks that cycle. It's a conscious decision to stop letting someone else's behavior control your emotions. Take, for instance, a situation where a close friend says something unkind in a moment of frustration. It's natural to feel hurt or even betrayed, but instead of holding onto that pain, consider forgiveness. Recognize that their words may have come from a place of stress or insecurity, not from a desire to harm you. Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending the hurt never happened. It means choosing to move forward without carrying the weight of that pain. Forgiveness also shifts the power dynamic. When you forgive, you take back control of your emotional well-being. You refuse to let someone else's negativity dictate your inner peace. It's a subtle but powerful act of self-preservation. And it often disarms toxic behavior, as the person who caused the harm may find their actions met with calm understanding rather than anger or retaliation. What can you forgive today to free yourself from toxicity? It could be a small slight or a deeper wound. It could be forgiving someone else or even forgiving yourself. Each act of forgiveness is a step toward greater emotional freedom and resilience. By letting go of grudges, you create space for peace, understanding, and growth. Forgiveness isn't a sign of weakness. It's a testament to your strength and your commitment to living a life unburdened by negativity. How does clarity help us navigate toxic behavior? Clarity is like a light in the fog of emotional manipulation, cutting through confusion and revealing the truth of a situation. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, taught that our minds are our greatest tools, but only when we use them rationally. When we think clearly, we see toxic behavior for what it is, an attempt to control or destabilize us rather than getting caught up in the emotions it stirs. Imagine you're in a heated argument with someone who's twisting your words to make you doubt yourself. Without clarity, you might get defensive, lash out, or even start questioning your own perspective. But with a clear mind, you can step back, observe their tactics, and respond calmly. You recognize that their behavior is about them, not you, and you refuse to let it dictate your emotions or actions. This is the power of rational thought. It shields you from manipulation and helps you stay grounded. Epictetus emphasized that we can't control others, but we can control how we respond. Clarity allows us to see this distinction clearly. For example, picture a chaotic work environment where a colleague constantly tries to shift blame onto others. Without clarity, you might feel frustrated or overwhelmed, caught in the drama. But with a clear mind, you can assess the situation objectively, document your actions, and calmly assert your position. You don't get drawn into their chaos. Instead, you navigate it with purpose and poise. So how can you cultivate clarity in your mind? Start by pausing before reacting. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, what's really happening here? Reflect on the situation without letting emotions cloud your judgment. Practice journaling or meditation to strengthen your ability to think clearly under pressure. And remember, clarity isn't about perfection. It's about making small, deliberate choices to keep your mind focused and your actions aligned with your values. When you cultivate clarity, you give yourself the power to disarm toxic behavior and move forward with confidence. Seneca once said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." This wisdom reminds us that much of the distress we feel from toxic behavior comes from letting it invade our mental space. Setting clear boundaries is how we protect that space and preserve our peace. Think of boundaries as walls around a garden. They keep out the weeds that would otherwise choke the life out of what we're trying to nurture. In Stoicism, boundaries are not about shutting people out, but about safeguarding our inner tranquility so we can thrive. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the essence of Stoic boundaries, recognizing what we can control and taking decisive action to protect our well-being. When we set limits, we're not trying to change others. We're taking responsibility for ourselves. For instance, imagine you have a friend who constantly brings negativity into conversations. Without boundaries, you might find yourself drained after every interaction. But by deciding to limit the time you spend with them or redirecting the conversation when it turns toxic, you're prioritizing your mental health without resorting to conflict or resentment. Boundaries also help us avoid the trap of trying to fix or rescue others. Toxic behavior often thrives on blurring lines, making us feel responsible for someone else's emotions or actions. Stoicism teaches us to focus on our own responses, not on controlling others. For example, if a coworker repeatedly dumps their workload on you, a Stoic boundary might look like politely but firmly saying no and redirecting them to their responsibilities. You're not being unkind, you're simply refusing to let their behavior disrupt your equilibrium. So where do you need to set boundaries in your life? Is it with a family member who constantly criticizes you, a partner who dismisses your feelings? Or even with yourself, by limiting the time you spend ruminating on negative thoughts? Start small, identify one area where you feel your peace is being invaded, and take a step to protect it. Remember, boundaries are not about building walls, they're about creating the space you need to live with purpose and clarity. How can Stoic courage help you face toxic behavior? Courage in the Stoic sense doesn't mean picking fights or responding with anger. It's about standing firm in your values while maintaining composure. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is the heart of Stoic courage, choosing how to respond, even when faced with someone's hostility or manipulation. Picture this, you're at work and a colleague takes credit for your idea in a meeting. Your first instinct might be to lash out, to call them out in front of everyone. But Stoic courage asks you to pause and consider the bigger picture. Instead of reacting impulsively, you might calmly approach them later and assert your contribution without escalating the situation. This isn't about letting them off the hook. It's about protecting your integrity and demonstrating that you won't be shaken by their behavior. Courage also means standing up for yourself without resorting to the same toxic tactics. Think of it as holding up a mirror to the behavior without letting it distort your own actions. For instance, if someone tries to guilt-trip you into doing something you're uncomfortable with, a Stoic response might be to acknowledge their feelings while firmly stating your boundaries. You're not dismissing them, you're simply refusing to let their tactics dictate your choices. Practicing courage doesn't always involve grand gestures. Sometimes it's as simple as saying no to a demand that oversteps your limits or choosing not to engage in gossip that perpetuates negativity. These small acts of courage build resilience over time, teaching you that you can face difficult situations without compromising your peace. So how can you practice courage in your daily interactions? Start by identifying moments when you feel pressured or disrespected and ask yourself, what would a calm, courageous response look like? Each time you choose to stand firm, you're not just confronting the behavior, you're strengthening your ability to navigate life's challenges with grace and dignity. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This idea of simplicity is central to Stoic philosophy. When we strip away the unnecessary, we create space for clarity and peace. Complexity often brings stress and distraction, making us more vulnerable to toxic influences. By simplifying our priorities, we can focus on what truly matters and shield ourselves from the chaos of others' negativity. Seneca echoed this sentiment when he said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more who is poor." Our desire for more possessions, more recognition, more control can lead us into toxic environments. We end up chasing things that don't align with our values, exposing ourselves to people and situations that drain our energy. Simplifying isn't about deprivation. It's about choosing what enriches your life and letting go of what doesn't. Consider this. Imagine a cluttered room filled with items you no longer need. It's overwhelming, right? Now think of your relationships and commitments in the same way. Are there people in your life who bring constant drama or negativity? Are there obligations that leave you feeling drained rather than fulfilled? Simplifying means decluttering these negative influences, creating room for healthier, more supportive connections. Simplicity also helps us set boundaries. When we're clear about our priorities, it's easier to say no to things that don't serve us. For example, if your priority is spending quality time with family, you might decline an invitation to a social event filled with gossip and conflict. By doing so, you protect your peace and avoid unnecessary stress. How can simplicity protect your peace of mind? It allows you to focus on what's within your control and let go of what isn't. When you simplify your life, you reduce the opportunities for toxicity to take root. You create a foundation of calm and clarity, making it easier to navigate challenges with resilience and grace. How can humor disarm toxic behavior? Picture this. Someone is hurling insults at you, their words sharp and cutting. Instead of responding with anger or defensiveness, you crack a light-hearted joke. Suddenly, the tension dissipates and the situation loses its toxic edge. Humor has a unique way of breaking down walls, diffusing hostility, and shifting the energy of a moment. It's not about dismissing the seriousness of a situation, but about choosing not to let it consume you. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, once advised, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." In other words, we have the power to choose how we respond. Humor allows us to step back, see the situation from a different perspective, and refuse to let someone else's negativity dictate our emotions. When we can laugh at the absurdity of a toxic moment, we reclaim our inner peace and refuse to be drawn into unnecessary conflict. Imagine this scenario. A coworker is nitpicking your work, pointing out every minor mistake in a condescending tone. Instead of feeling defensive or engaging in a heated argument, you respond with a playful comment like, "Wow, I must be really special for you to give me so much of your attention." This light-hearted approach can catch them off guard, deflating their criticism and turning the interaction into something more neutral or even positive. Humor also helps us maintain perspective. It reminds us that not everything requires a serious response. Sometimes, the best way to navigate difficult situations is to acknowledge the absurdity or pettiness of what's happening. By doing so, we avoid giving toxic behavior the power to upset us. It's a subtle yet effective way to assert control over our reactions and protect our emotional well-being. So, how can humor help you navigate difficult situations? It acts as a tool for diffusing tension, maintaining perspective, and refusing to take things too personally. When used thoughtfully, it can transform a potentially toxic interaction into an opportunity for connection, or at least a chance to walk away unscathed. Humor, in essence, is a Stoic superpower, one that lets us rise above negativity while keeping our inner peace intact. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Everything is ephemeral, both that which remembers and that which is remembered." In these words, he reminds us of the fleeting nature of all things, including the grudges and resentments we cling to. When we hold onto past hurts or grievances, we allow them to take up space in our minds, feeding toxicity and disrupting our inner peace. But what if, instead of carrying that weight, we chose to let it go? Seneca captured this idea beautifully when he said, "It is not the man who has too little who is poor, but the one who hankers after more." Here, he's not just talking about material possessions, but also emotional baggage. The act of letting go isn't a sign of weakness, it's a declaration of freedom. It's about reclaiming your mental and emotional energy from the things that no longer serve you. Consider this example. Imagine someone betrayed your trust years ago. The memory of that betrayal still lingers, and every time you think about it, you feel that same anger and hurt. But what if you decided to release that resentment? Not to excuse their actions, but to free yourself from the burden of carrying it. When you let go, you stop giving that past event power over your present. You create space for peace, growth, and new possibilities. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or pretending the pain never happened. It means choosing not to let that pain define you or dictate your future. It's a practice, one that requires mindfulness, compassion for yourself, and a commitment to your own well-being. Each time you release a grudge or resentment, you take a step toward a lighter, more peaceful existence. So, what can you let go of to improve your peace of mind? Is it a past mistake you keep replaying in your head? A grudge you've been holding onto for too long? Or perhaps an expectation that's causing you unnecessary stress? Whatever it is, remember this. Letting go isn't about losing something. It's about gaining the freedom to live fully in the present moment. How does consistency help us handle toxic behavior? The answer lies in the power of habit. Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig." If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer you that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen. In the same way, our ability to respond to negativity with calm and clarity doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of consistent practice. When we commit to applying Stoic principles daily, we build a kind of mental muscle memory. Over time, this consistency transforms our reactions from impulsive to intentional. For instance, imagine you have a colleague who frequently criticizes your work. Instead of reacting defensively each time, you practice pausing, reflecting, and choosing a reasoned response. The first few times it might feel challenging, but with repetition it becomes more natural. Consistency in these small moments strengthens your resilience and reduces the emotional toll of such interactions. Epictetus also emphasized the importance of habitual practice in his teachings. He believed that true freedom comes from mastering our responses, and that mastery is only possible through repetition. When we consistently remind ourselves of what is within our control and what is not, we stop being shaken by external events, including toxic behavior. It's not about achieving perfection, but about making progress one intentional step at a time. Consider this example: a parent who consistently practices patience with their child's tantrums. At first, staying calm might require immense effort, but over time, it becomes second nature. The same principle applies to Stoic practice. By consistently applying principles like focusing on what's within your control and practicing detachment from outcomes, you create a stable foundation that shields you from the chaos of toxic behavior. So, how can consistency strengthen your Stoic practice? Start small. Choose one principle, like practicing gratitude or focusing on the present moment, and commit to applying it daily. Over time, these small, consistent actions will compound, empowering you to navigate life's challenges with greater ease and confidence. Consistency isn't about grand gestures. It's about the quiet, steady effort that builds resilience and transforms your ability to handle whatever comes your way. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "What injures the hive injures the bee." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that our actions toward others are deeply interconnected with our own well-being. Treating others with compassion, even in the face of toxicity, isn't just about them, it's about preserving our own peace of mind. Kindness, he believed, is not a sign of weakness but a mark of strength. When someone is rude or aggressive, our first instinct might be to retaliate or defend ourselves. But Stoicism teaches us to pause and consider a different approach. Seneca said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." This means that even in the most challenging interactions, we can choose gentleness over confrontation. Kindness has a unique power to de-escalate tension without sacrificing our dignity. It doesn't mean we tolerate mistreatment, but rather that we respond with clarity and compassion, refusing to let someone else's negativity dictate our behavior. Imagine you're at a coffee shop and the barista snaps at you for taking too long to order. Instead of firing back with irritation, you take a deep breath and respond with a calm, polite tone. This small act of kindness can shift the entire dynamic. It might even prompt the barista to reflect on their own behavior. By choosing patience, you not only avoid unnecessary conflict, but also set an example of how to handle difficult situations with grace. So, how can kindness transform your interactions with others? It starts with recognizing that everyone is fighting their own battles. When someone acts out, it's often a reflection of their inner struggles rather than a personal attack. By meeting their negativity with understanding, you create space for resolution rather than escalation. Kindness becomes a tool for disarming toxicity, allowing you to maintain your composure while potentially inspiring others to do the same. It's a reminder that even in the face of adversity, we have the power to choose how we respond, and that choice can make all the difference. Epictetus once said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." This is the essence of self-reliance, the ability to trust in your own abilities and judgment, rather than seeking approval or validation from others. When we depend on external sources for our sense of worth, we become vulnerable to the opinions and actions of those around us, including toxic behavior. But when we cultivate self-reliance, we build an inner foundation that cannot easily be shaken. Marcus Aurelius echoed this idea when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. This inner strength allows us to face criticism, negativity, or manipulation without losing our composure. Imagine you're at work and a colleague makes a snide comment about your performance. Instead of feeling crushed or defensive, you remind yourself that your value doesn't hinge on their opinion. You stay focused on your goals and continue to trust in your abilities. This quiet confidence not only protects you from their toxicity, but also demonstrates self-respect. Self-reliance isn't about isolating yourself or rejecting help from others. It's about developing a core sense of self that remains steady regardless of external circumstances. This means knowing your strengths, acknowledging your weaknesses, and being willing to grow without waiting for others to validate your progress. It's about taking responsibility for your thoughts, actions, and emotions, rather than blaming others for how you feel or react. So, how can you cultivate self-reliance in your daily life? Start by setting small, achievable goals that challenge you to rely on your own judgment. Reflect on your accomplishments, no matter how minor, and recognize the effort you've put into them. Practice self-awareness by observing how you respond to criticism or adversity, and remind yourself that your worth isn't defined by external opinions. Over time, these habits will strengthen your sense of self, making you more resilient and less susceptible to the negativity of others. Stoicism teaches us that the way we respond to toxic behavior is entirely within our control. By practicing detachment, we prevent the negativity of others from dictating our emotions. Through resilience, we learn to stand firm in our values, even when faced with criticism or manipulation. And by cultivating presence, we stay grounded in the moment, refusing to be drawn into unnecessary conflict or drama. These principles are not just philosophical ideas. They are practical tools that can transform how we navigate challenging interactions daily. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This reminder is powerful because it highlights how much of our distress comes from overthinking and interpreting others' actions. When we focus on what is truly within our control, our thoughts, actions, and responses, we reclaim our power. Toxic behavior loses its grip on us because we no longer give it the attention or energy it seeks. As you reflect on these Stoic insights, consider how you can apply them to your own life. Perhaps it's by pausing before reacting to a harsh comment, or by reminding yourself that someone's negativity is a reflection of their own struggles, not your worth. Small, consistent practices can lead to profound changes in how you experience and handle difficult situations. If you found these ideas helpful, take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments below. What resonated with you most? And if you're eager to dive deeper into Stoic wisdom, consider subscribing for more insights that can help you live with greater clarity and calm. Remember, the journey to mastering these principles is ongoing, but every step you take brings you closer to a life of peace and resilience.